Hey guys, Cecil here once again. Hey, I want to do a video today and talk to you about a couple of games that I've been wanting to do a kind of a compare and contrast of them just because of how freaking terrible they both are. If you've been paying attention to Sega and especially the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, you know in the last 15 years there's been a lot of Sonic releases on console and handheld. And the two games I'm going to talk about today, Sonic the Hedgehog 2006 on the 360 and Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric on the Wii U, to me, and I would argue the general consensus of a lot of Sonic fans and people in the gaming community in general, are considered the worst two that have come out probably since the original Sonic Adventure in 1999. Given it's the 25th anniversary of Sonic this year, I think this is a good time to talk about this video, just because, like I said, as you can see, this right here, I would say, is pretty much all of the mainline Sonic games for the most part. There's some spin-offs, collections, and things that aren't in here that I do have, but I just don't have in the stack. But this right here, for the most part, is every major Sonic game between the 6th to the 7th gen consoles that have released. But like I said, I'm only going to talk mainly about these two broken, bad fucking games that these are right here. And actually, I don't know if you remember me maybe potentially talking about this in the past. My copy of Sonic 06, as I don't know if this is a good or a bad thing, this is actually autographed by Jason Griffith. If you don't know who Jason Griffith is, he was the voice of Sonic from, I want to say, 2005 to about 2011. He voiced Sonic. He was the one who did Sonic in the Sonic X cartoon. Back about 10 years ago when this game came out, there was a huge internet community argument, at least within the Sonic community. Was the guy who did the original Sonic voices back on the Sonic Adventure, was he better or was Jason better? Fortunately it's a dead argument at this point to me, but I just thought I want to share that my copy, for better or worse, is autographed by the main guy who plays Sonic in this game. So in this video, I'm going to really touch on four major points that I think any normal review would. Graphics, gameplay, story, and fun factor, if you can really have much fun with either of these giant turds. So let's kind of go with graphics, and let's start with Sonic 06. Now, you kind of got to look at this from the perspective of the time. I think it's an easy thing to hate on Sonic Boom a little more these days versus Sonic 2006, just because it's the more fresh game in people's mind. It's been more recent, it's been shit on more often, more people know about it. Not to say Sonic 06 doesn't have a fucking bad reputation, but there's more gamers now than there were 10 years ago. A lot of younger gamers grew up, maybe didn't really play Sonic 2006 back in the day or have never played it. So, looking at it back in the time, coming off the 6th gen Sonic games, the GameCube ports of Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 weren't bad. Sonic Adventure 2 was decent. Sonic Adventures 1 port was kind of glitchy. Sonic Heroes was a so-so game. Sega tried some different things. Shadow the Hedgehog is generally considered probably one small notch above 06 and Sonic Boom as far as a slightly better game, but it's still generally considered a really shit Sonic game, even if Sonic technically you don't play as him, you play as Shadow. Coming off that really bad taste in someone's mouth, Sega, for a lot of people, myself included, they had an opportunity to come out with the first 7th gen HD awesome looking Sonic game, and all the gaming media at the time was releasing screenshots of the game. It looked fucking fantastic in these screenshots. The hype was building, if you're familiar with the graphic of the Sonic cycle and how it can be a huge fucking letdown for a modern Sonic game, even if maybe in recent games that hasn't been quite as true. But it has a lot of hype behind it. It was the 15th anniversary of Sonic. PS3 and 360 were getting this awesome looking game, and then it released. I think Sonic 06 came out in October or November of 2006, and the PS3 version came out a couple months later in January of 2007. But regardless, both versions were unmitigated fucking disasters. Advanced review copies, from what I recall, weren't even sent out, at least to the PS3 version. I don't remember if the 360 version had that same issue, but when a publisher does not send out advanced review copies, they know the game is going to get shit on because they know it's a broken pile of crap. And I would say at least somewhat graphically. Sonic 2006, while I don't think it lived quite up to the screenshots, it wasn't a bad-looking early 6th gen game. The problem were the fucking load times. I mean, Jesus Christ. You would be in the hub world, and you talk to a guy, and then it would load for 30 seconds, and then the guy would pop up. He would talk for 10 fucking seconds, and then it would take another 30 seconds to load the mission or the task or the hub world back that you were trying to do after you talked to the guy. I mean, you were, at least early on in the game, you had more fucking load times than actual fucking gameplay. That's what fucking, at least to me, at least trying to get into the game originally, killed it. And that's, it didn't help the graphics at all. I don't know, if development time, maybe they didn't have enough time to help improve the load time some, but, graphically, it wasn't terrible. I don't think it lived up to the screenshots, at least for an early an early 7th gen Sonic game and an early 7th gen release in overall. But, oh my god, just load times, and, there were some bad graphical glitches in there and popping as well. So, not completely terrible. There were some decent-looking spots, but definitely didn't live up to the screenshots and the hype the game had coming into it, at least graphically. And Sonic Boom, let's move on to the graphics of that game. The Wii U is generally considered an underpowered console compared to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. It's a slightly more powerful PS3 and 360. But even for a 7th gen comparable console, Sonic Boom on the Wii U, I don't know if you've ever seen Pro Jared's channel or his review of Sonic Boom. If you haven't, go check it out. It's fucking hilarious. I wouldn't disagree with his assessment, at least in some parts, that Sonic Boom looks like a fucking PlayStation 2 game in HD. Especially in 2-player co-op when the graphic fidelity drops even fucking lower. Not to say it doesn't look very good when you're just playing single player, but to even make it playable, they lower the graphics even worse. Remove all the shadows and certain things in the game just to help the game run better. It's fucking bad when that has to happen. Glitches, terrible slowdown, pop in, just overall. I mean, compared to like Sonic Lost World on the Wii U, which is actually made by Sonic Team and has really good graphics for the system, and this game came out a fucking year before Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom completely fucking disappoints, even for its time, even for its when it came out, and even with the Wii U not being the most powerful console. So I would argue Sonic Boom is a slightly worse looking game just for, if you analyze, even if Sonic 06 had the hype, Sonic Boom, just for its graphics, it just dropped the ball even more so than Sonic 06 did. Now, to be fair to both of these games, and I will make this one point, I would argue that had both of these games, for whatever reasons they were released early, Sonic Boom had some engine changes, I believe. It had to jump consoles because it became a Wii U exclusive. Sonic 06 was rushed out to make the 15th anniversary of Sonic. Had both of these games had the time in development, maybe another 6 months to a year, I think they could have been decent games for the most part. Maybe not like the greatest, 3D Sonic games of all time. Usually Sonic Generations and Sonic Adventure 2 are probably considered the better 3D Sonic games to have come out in the last 15 years, at least on console. But like I said, I'd argue had these games had more time development, they might have been better than they actually ended up being. And neither of these games in their current state should have fucking been released, period. Or at least not delayed a good 6 months to a year. So that's kind of graphics. Let's move on to gameplay. Sonic 2006. This was... to me, it's ironic, how everybody out there says if they just do a Sonic Adventure 3, Sonic will have a good Sonic game again, because those were the first two Sonic Adventure games are well remembered, even if maybe they haven't aged as well as a lot of people think they have. Sonic 06 was supposed to be Sonic Adventure 3. If you played those games and you saw what they were trying to do with Sonic 2006, you could see there's the hub world, there's different missions, there's 3 different storylines between, the main protagonists of the game. Just, how the levels play. You've got Sonic in the more speedy platformy levels. You've got Silver in the more slower meticulous puzzle-like levels where he kind of uses his psychic powers, since that's kind of his character trait, and Shadow kind of leaning off what he did from Shadow the Hedgehog, being the more, action, weapon, vehicle-based combat. And I think like I said before, had they had more time, it just seemed like Sonic Team just was trying to do too much. They had too many different gameplay ideas, too many different things they wanted to do, and they tried to coalesce it all together, and it just failed, and they dropped the ball had they just, maybe done more of a Sonic Adventure 2, expand that a little bit, simplify the gameplay. That's where Sonic 2006 really drops the ball. It was just too many worthless ideas. At least half the ideas for some of the levels were fucking worthless. Should never have even been made. The control itself, Sonic controls like molasses, even, just playing through the first couple of action stages with him. Coming from Sonic Adventure 2 to Sonic 06, there's just absolutely no sense of fucking speed when you're controlling Sonic. Shadow is the same way, and Silver really, he's not meant to be fast, but it just there's no sense of speed. And in the speed sections, oh my god, in 2006, I can't tell you how many times, like, it's the very first speed section you play as Sonic, where you're chasing the egg carrier, and you fucking hit a fence and die. Why? Why would Sonic hit a fucking fence and just automatically die? That makes no sense to me. And why it's such a frustrating game, fucking overall. That's just the tip of the fucking iceberg on why Sonic 2006, at least gameplay and control, is just not fun to fucking play. So that being said, let's move on to Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom, while it has some relations to the fact of it has a hub world like Sonic 06 did, Sonic Boom's biggest problem was the fact that gameplay-wise, it's slow. At least when you're jogging around the hub world, I think Pro Jared said it best, it's a leisurely jog. And where there is speed, there's kind of, I would say when you enter an action stage, there's kind of a speed level, a speed section of the game, and then you kind of get into the main action, combat side of the game. That's kind of, to me, how at least every action level as you progress through the game goes. And those speed sections are on rails. The frame rate chugs terribly on them. So even if you're going fast, it's on rails, and you don't feel like you have much control over Sonic, even when he's supposed to be fast. It doesn't work. In the combat, while not completely terrible, everyone has different attributes and combos. There's really not much point to the combos. You can basically hit, the attack button and win 95% of the time. Very rarely was there any sort of deviation in how to beat enemies. Sometimes there would be an enemy with a shield, you might have to pull it off with your laser lasso and things like that. But for the most part, you could just mash the attack button and win. And the other and really, really big flaw of the gameplay of fucking Sonic Boom is the fact they give you, at least, I would say 75-80% of the time, you have no idea where the fuck you're supposed to go. Sonic Boom is supposed to be roughly a 5 to 6 hour game if you just play through the main story. My friend and I actually played through the game co-op, and boy, that's an adventure on its own. But we spent literally half of that 15 hours, I would say, it took us to fucking beat the game, wandering around where the fuck we were supposed to go next. Because none of the characters or the story gave you any clue of where you're supposed to go, more than half the time. So you're just kind of wandering around hoping you run into something that, might spring an action stage or, might spring the next cutscene to advance the story along. Not to mention, in Sonic Boom, there's crowns you can get in all the levels, and the game is just so fucking broken. I don't know how anybody could even get them well, to at least try to get them all. You have to literally spend hours just trying to overcome the glitches to get some of the crowns and where they're hidden or where they're up high, just because the controls are so fucking broken and bad. And I can't tell you how many fucking times playing co-op in Sonic Boom, my friend and I would be, we'd each play as 2 of the 4 characters and you control one of each of the 4. He would go wandering off towards one part of the hub world and I would go wandering off towards another, and then all of a sudden I would magically warp to where he was, or he would magically warp to where I was, and it was the most frustrating fucking annoying thing playing Sonic Boom was just having no idea where the fuck to go. And the constant rubber banding of your co-player wandering off too far and you zooming where he is and him zooming where you are. That's to me the biggest fucking issues. Not to mention in both games there's jump glitches. At least with Sonic Boom, the 1.1 patch fixed the pause jump glitch where you could skip like huge amounts of the game. Sonic 06 had a similar kind of glitch. But overall, I guess if I had to lean one way of the game being worse, Sonic Boom, just because of the frustration, at least Sonic 06, you kind of had an idea where you were supposed to go. Sonic Boom, half the fucking time or over half the time, you had no fucking idea. Not to mention the rubber banding of the co-op just made it not fun to play at all. Story-wise, I'm not going to touch too much on either of them. I guess I don't want to do too much spoiler-wise, but Sonic 06's story, I think maybe had they fleshed the idea out a little bit more of, Silver coming from the future and the Iblis, trigger and her and the girl's tears, Elisa's tears being that trigger to awaken the evil demon god and her falling in love with Sonic. Why is Sonic falling in love with a human girl? And everyone's Sonic dies towards the fucking end, and her kiss or her tears revive him. And at the end of the day on the Sonic 06 story, it completely fucking reboots like the fucking game never even goddamn happened. And Sonic Boom story, Lyric, who's the main antagonist, is a complete fucking throwaway. It's a typical, hey, I need to get all these components to take over the fucking world, make everything mechanical and kill all the biological fucking life. And Sonic goes to get all those fucking, the crystals, and then right when he gets the last one, Lyric jumps in and steals them all, and then Sonic's got to go, and the rest of the characters from Sonic Boom have to go and stop Lyric from taking over the world, and they defeat him, and they capture him, and, you'll never fucking hear of Lyric again. He's a fucking complete throwaway. I will admit, at least story-wise in Sonic Boom, there were a few lines I chuckled at. They definitely tried to do the whole Pixar humor in a lot of spots, but for the most part, it was a complete throwaway. Now, to be fair to Sonic Boom, it's an attachment to a fucking kid's show. So, in that regard, you kind of have to maybe forgive it a little bit. Sonic 06's story was actually meant to be a mainline Sonic story. So, I guess if I had to say for that fact, I would say the story in Sonic 06, like the fact it never fucking happened, would be a slightly worse story. But like I said, both are forgettable at the end of the fucking day. The only thing Sonic 06 did was more introduce Silver the Hedgehog, even though I don't think they've used him much since that game, at least in a mainline Sonic game, and the cat girl, which I can't think of her name off the top of my head. So let's move on to fun factor. And like I alluded to before, how you could have fun with either of these fucking games is beyond me. If you go into them with the impression of playing them as like you're watching a B movie, how fucking broken they are, and just Sonic 06, Game Grumps did a huge gameplay of it. You can probably go find the videos easy enough. But your friends could watch you play it. You can make them play it, and you get a laugh at just how fucking broken it is. Certain things like that, doing quick time event jumps, and then you fucking fly through a fucking, platform you were supposed to land on and you fucking die. Just stupid shit like that. And Sonic Boom, you can actually, share the terror with a fucking friend. Because, like I said, my friend Pat and I played the entire game co-op, and it was a fucking chore and a nightmare to even fucking finish that game. We were finally done, didn't even have to look at the game fucking again. So, from that perspective, I think you might have some fun from both. To me, that's a wash. So, I guess at the end of the day, what to me is the worst of these two? Now, I'm saying this in the comparison that this pile of shit over here smells worse than this pile of shit over here. They're both terrible fucking games. But if I had to lean one way, I would say Sonic 2006 is the slightly worse game. And here is the main reason why I feel that way. Sonic 2006 was supposed to be Sonic Adventure 3. It was published by Sega, made by Sonic Team. It is a mainline Sonic game. And in that regard, to me, being the broken, rushed, unfun to play pile of shit that it is, that almost fact alone, you can make arguments for graphics, gameplay, and things like that. The fact it was made by Sonic Team, it was the first hyped up 7th gen Sonic game on the PS3 and the 360, and they just so utterly dropped the fucking ball. If you look at it in the context of the time it came out, the hype it had, that to me is why Sonic 2006 is worse than Sonic Boom. Sonic Boom was not made by Sonic Team. It was published by Sega, but it was made by a Western developer, a completely new team. I believe the main head of that studio had worked on a Sony franchise. He had beat, I think it was Jak and Daxter or Ratchet and Clank. He had a good pedigree, but just due to gameplay changes and maybe console changes and things like that, Sonic Boom wasn't made by Sonic Team. It was a new studio, and they had never made a game before, let alone a Sonic game before. And that why, not to mention, it was an attachment to the fucking cartoon show. It was geared towards kids. I would say it's not quite as bad as Sonic 2006 for that reason. But like I said, again, guys, this is a completely subjective thing. I would love to hear your impressions of this down in the comments below. But I will also say one more thing. I don't think either of these games is the worst Sonic game of all time. This game right here is the worst Sonic game of all time, in my personal opinion, and here is why. If you remember my Sonic's 32-bit days video, I kind of talked about the game a little bit, but that video was a few years ago, so I'll reiterate. Imagine if you've ever played the original black and white Game Boy, the spinach green colored Game Boy, you know how bad the refresh rate on that screen. For the time, it wasn't completely terrible, but if you go back and play it, it's noticeably the screen has a lot of ghosting issues. The Gamecom's screen had twice as bad ghosting issues as the original Game Boy, and the Gamecom came out fucking 8 years after the original Game Boy. And imagine trying to shoehorn and take the graphics from the Genesis, Sonic games, Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 mainly, and put it on a portable system like that. Not to mention, not being a very powerful system, the Gamecom, it can't handle the speed requirements of a Genesis-style Sonic game. And the ghosting. I will link in below some gameplay of Sonic Jam for the Gamecom, so you kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. The frame rate is terrible, it's glitchy, but unless you actually fucking play Sonic Jam on a Gamecom, you will not understand where I'm coming from. It is that unplayable. I don't know why the fuck it was even made. The only thing I can even come up with is the fact that this was in 1997 when Sega was hurting for money, and they had just discontinued the Game Gear, and they wanted a new portable Sonic game out. And I don't know if Sega even made this, if they had anything to do with its direct development. They might have just farmed the damn thing out to Tiger, and Tiger crapped something out onto their Gamecom, their failed fucking handheld, and that was the result. But for the fact it was a licensed Sonic game, it was given the right to exist by Sega at the time. That, to me, as far as an actually legitimately released Sonic game licensed by Sega, regardless of who made it, that, to me, is why that is the worst Sonic game of all time. But anyways, guys, I just wanted to make one small final annotation to this video. I've noticed I've had a pretty significant uptick in subscribers in the last few weeks. A lot of people have been coming to my channel from my PlayStation Vita video that I did back in early January, and I want to thank everybody who's either come from my channel from that video or come from my channel from another video. Thank you very much for subscribing. It means a lot to me. Your guys are the reasons I even sit here and spit at my camera here for 10, 15. This is probably over 20 minutes. But I appreciate you. Thank you very much for subscribing and sticking around. I promise there will be more consistent content coming. I've got a lot of good ideas coming for February. But in the meantime, you guys, you take it easy, and I'll see you next time.